On October 7, 2023, Hamas, with other terrorist organizations in Gaza, as well as Palestinian civilians themselves, have decided to go into Israel, break into Israel, and start killing people, start killing civilians, start killing soldiers, killing elderly and children, and kidnapping many of them as well, over 200 of them in total. They've stayed in Israel for a few days, trying to inflict as much damage as possible and then retreat with the hostages. On July 24, 2025, French President Emmanuel Macron has decided those same people deserve a state. They deserve the recognition as people who are able to manage themselves, as one of the first of basically more bigger, more powerful Western nations. Today on the Welcome to the Daily Objective. On today's episode, we'll talk about this. It's not an official, as in France officially recognizes the Palestinian state, but Emmanuel Macron announced that he's going to make announcement at the UN coming September. It might still change, but I think it's pretty obvious that France itself will recognize it, and the only question is going to be, is somebody going to join them, which is something we'll talk about also in a little bit. And with that, let's jump into this. So we have Emmanuel Macron on X. He posted his, or this is directly from X, but of course he made an actual declaration, sort of written, but this is what it says. Consistent with its historic commitment to a just and lasting peace in the Middle East, I have decided that France will recognize the state of Palestine. So already you can, so it's a longer, we'll go part by part. This idea that recognizing the Palestinian state is what brings peace, where attacks on Israel, hatred of Israel, attack against West itself is the main thing driving the violence in the Middle East, not to mention violence among themselves. If you look at most of the conflicts in the Middle East right now, they are not from basically the local states are fighting the Western governments or anything like that. It's in Syria, the Syrian civil war, them fighting themselves. In Yemen, them fighting themselves again. Most of Middle East is basically civil wars or states fighting against each other. So again, this idea that if only Israel was not here, if only a Palestinian state, so-called Palestinian state, was recognized, that this would not happen is again just a ridiculous idea, a complete, again, this is not ignorance. We are talking about a French president. This is evasion, or this is straight up basically compromise of evil. Bonnie in the chat is asking, does the world have to crash completely for reason to come back? That is definitely going to be a question. We've seen that kind of pullback coming here and there. We've seen when it comes to politics, but only when it comes to local politics. I'm thinking of people like Javier Milei or Margaret Thatcher. But the fact is, when it comes to a really evil foreign policy, compromising with dictatorships' foreign policy, I don't think we've seen any sort of basically pullback. Maybe you could say in Israel, Israel has continuously or for a long time engaged in appeasing diplomacy when it comes to Palestinians or when it comes to even surrounding Arab states. And recently it has been a bit less, but it's still, I think, very appeasing. You still have Netanyahu talking about alliance with Saudi Arabia or normalization with Saudi Arabia, potentially normalization with Syria. The fact that attacks on Iran stopped, and now there is sort of talking about some sort of a deal, although we'll have to see what will go there. Somebody says Ireland has already recognized Palestine. So yeah, that's why I said more powerful states. Again, Ireland is not even in NATO. Ireland is not what we would consider sort of like a big player when it comes to world stage. Uh, when we talk about sort of like big players, I think we talk about, for example, the G7 nations, or when it comes to sort of in Europe, I think we're mainly talking about the United Kingdom, Germany, and France. Those are the big players when it comes to world stage. Somebody also said that France also wants Germany and UK to recognize. I think this is definitely going to be a question now. The the new chancellor of Germany, whose name now I can't remember, so maybe somebody can remind me, has said that Germany doesn't have any plans to recognize the Palestinian state in the sort of upcoming or in the upcoming months, or at least in the short term, which is already. I think scary, the fact that there is even acknowledgement that maybe there could be something in the future. We've seen so yeah, this is scary. Somebody says also Starmer is spineless. Well, spineless would would assume that he ever had one, which I don't think is really what we are talking about here. But let's continue a bit further to through Emmanuel Macron's declaration. So he said, I will make this solemn announcement before the United Nations General Assembly this coming September. So, and here is something I think like truly disgusting, the fact that something like a recognition of a state is being done at the UN. The fact that if if there even is to be any recognition of a state, I think it's a domestic matter. I think it's a something now, I don't know if Emmanuel Macron can even do that unilaterally, because that's already, I think, very disturbing. The fact that something like that would be a decision simply of the, not even of the executive, because France is not even a fully doesn't even have fully an executive branch of the government. It's a semi-presidential republic, so they still have a prime minister. They still have an actual government that is not directly under Emmanuel Macron. Yet, if he is able to simply recognize the Palestinian state alone, that is already very problematic. But again, you have to think of what this is. This is Emmanuel Macron going on his like pretty much going on his knees in front of a bunch of dictatorships at the UN and saying, yeah, we now recognize the Palestinian state. We can talk a little bit later about what that even means. So continuing with the declaration, the urgent priority today is to end the war in Gaza and bring relief to the civilian population. Peace is possible. Peace is possible, but not through recognizing the Palestinian state, not through saying that every single thing Palestinians have done October 7 was actually good. I mean, again, ask yourself a question. Would France recognize the Palestinian state? And they have been talking about it for the last few months. Would France be talking about recognizing the Palestinian state if October 7 didn't happen? If that violence didn't happen? It can only happen because of the violence. If um, if Palestinians didn't commit to first and second intifada, you wouldn't have Oslo Accords. You wouldn't have Gaza disengagement. Palestinians are committing violence, are basically completely committed to violence, and every time they do it, they are rewarded for it. Anytime Israel tries to fight back against that violence, Israel is the one being condemned. So you have this continuous cycle of Palestinians committing violence against Israelis, and then Israelis being the bad guys for defending themselves. We have a super chat from Bonnie. Thank you so much, and a super chat from Jonathan. Thank you so much. Somebody's asking, if Palestine becomes a state, then will Israel be responsible to provide food for them? Again, even the idea of recognizing a state doesn't really mean much. It's I don't want to take away from it because this is mostly symbolic. It doesn't really mean anything, but it's still truly evil. It's still giving legitimacy to the cause. when it comes to sort of like what is recognized and what is not recognized. For example, a nation like Taiwan is, of course, not technically a recognized state because China doesn't agree with it, and China has a seat at the UN Security Council. So you have this weird thing where everybody pretty much around the world recognizes Taiwan. Taiwan is an independent nation and should be recognized as such. Yet because one dictatorship doesn't like it, we don't see it. And something different is going on here is the fact that you have a dictatorship called the Palestinian Authority that is trying to establish itself, and the West is falling on its knees to try to recognize it, to make sure, no, yes, yes, you can oppress your people. If you want to oppress your people, you should have every right, in quotes, to do so, because this is what you have chosen. But the Western nations don't even recognize the fact that Palestinians want violence, right? They still consider it as if Palestinians want peace, as if Palestinians want some kind of better future for Gaza or for them in Judea and Samaria. This is simply not the case. If they wanted more peaceful resolution, they wouldn't commit October 7th. They wouldn't commit to continuous violence against Israeli state. They would try to come up with some sort of a deal. They would try to come up with some sort of a peaceful resolution. But whenever, even take the recent deals, right? Whenever we talk about ceasefire deal, what is Hamas asking for? Give us our terrorists back. Unless you give us our terrorists back, we are not going to go for a ceasefire. What kind of again, if Hamas or Palestinians were committed to peace, they would say, no, 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 keep all the terrorists out. We do not want any of them. We don't have any use for them anymore. But no, this is not what's happening. Let's read a little bit more. We need, and this is continuing from the Emmanuel Macron's declaration. We need an immediate ceasefire, the release of all hostages, and massive humanitarian aid for the people of Gaza. We must also ensure the demilitarization of Hamas, secure and rebuild Gaza, and finally, we must build the state of Palestine, guarantee its viability, and ensure that by accepting its demilitarization and fully recognizing Israel, it contributes to security of all in the region. There is no alternative. The French people want peace in the Middle East. It is our responsibility as French citizens, alongside Israelis, Palestinians, and other European and international partners, to prove that peace is possible. We can read the rest a bit later. But again, there is this like weird thing of Hamas wants Israeli, somebody says, I'm being disingenuous. Hamas wants Israeli forces to leave Gaza, and Israel refuses. They are asking for their terrorists back. So, and again, why would they leave? Why would they? You declared war on the Israeli state. Why would you expect that the IDF would leave? IDF should stay. There should, like, we shouldn't be even talking. Like, there is no negotiations anymore. You threw out the negotiations on October 7th. You said, no, we just want violence. You want violence? Then you should get it. That's the way you chose to deal with your fellow man. That's what you'll get. And again, that would even assume that Palestinians would consider Jews as their fellow man, which of course they wouldn't. But this is the alternative they chose. This is what they should get. They wanted violence, they'll get violence. They wanted war, get ready for war, and don't cry now the fact that you are feeling the consequences of starting a war. And French President Emmanuel Macron has, again, this idea that, again, he's talking about we should get the hostages back, massive humanitarian aid, demilitarization of Hamas, secure and rebuild Gaza. But who wants that in Gaza? You're talking like you have no idea what's going on. You're talking like you have no idea who these people are. Again, this is like talking, like, take any dictator and say, okay, what we need, and any dictatorship, any people who support dictatorship, and say, well, what they need is freedom. Well, what if they don't want freedom? What if they don't want to be free? What are you going to do if they want to commit to violence? What are you going to do when they want to commit to war? And this is what makes any conversation about this impossible, because I'm dealing with the Israeli state as it is, as flawed as it is. I think it's much better to anything compared in the alternative. So I'm dealing with the Israeli state and with the IDF as it is, but these people are dealing with Palestinians as they have some idea of romanticized Palestinian who doesn't want to commit any violence, who doesn't want Hamas, who wants to get the hostages back, who simply wants to live a free life. Such a person doesn't exist. You are dealing with Palestinians that don't exist. You are dealing with some imagination you have of the Palestinian people that is not connecting to reality in any way. You are not dealing with the facts on the ground. And I'm talking to Emmanuel Macron. He's the leader of I almost said of the free world. He's the leader of one of the biggest nations, one of the most powerful nations on the earth. And he has no idea who the Palestinian people are. He has complete detachment from what is actually on the ground. We have a super chat from Jonathan. Thank you so much. A super chat from Bonnie. Thank you so much. And a super chat from Jeff. Thank you so much. Let's finish with the declaration. He says, in light of commitments made to me by the President of the Palestinian Authority, I have written to him to express my determination to move forward, trust, clarity, and resolve. We will achieve peace. So again, you have this idea of I'm not specifically sure what he's referring to. I know Mahmoud Abbas has been making a lot of commitments, different ones, but there's two that he might be thinking of, or he might be referring to. He probably has one in mind. There was one that Mahmoud Abbas will stop with basically the Martyrs Fund, and second one is having an election. So again, both of them are such an appeasement that don't really mean anything. Again, committing to stopping the Martyrs Fund. So Palestinian Authority, the representative of the Palestinian people, is paying Palestinians for killing Jews, or paying their family if they get killed while doing so, or if they go to prison while doing so. This is the fact. And uh, it should be a reward that they get rid of this. This is like, oh my God, they're basically civilizing. They're basically, Jeffersonian Democrats coming around, understanding of what a society is. It's ridiculous to be rewarding against something like that. It should be the bare minimum. And compare that to how people treat Israel for its defending of itself. And second one is the having election. Again, elections don't mean anything when you don't have the system of individual rights, when you don't understand what really is going on. They had elections back in 2005, and they elected Hamas, and then they elected Fatah. They had a choice, and they chose to elect two terrorist organizations that immediately went against each other's throats, because they are both simply power-grabbing dictatorships that want to impose their will on both their own people and people who disagree with them. So yeah, this is again, this is to go to, I think, my biggest point. This is an absolute reward for terrorism. This is again another reminder to the Palestinian people that if they want to achieve something, they should commit violence against Jews. This is when the world will be behind them. This is when the world will support their so-called right to a state. Again, just look at the rise of anti-Semitism against after October 7, and an we are talking about an event that targeted Jews and killed Jews, kidnapped and raped, and afterwards there was an increase in crime against those specific people who were targeted. Talking about like victim blaming. We've covered, I think, like a week ago or so, we've covered a poll of Americans who said, I think 1 in 4 Americans said that basically the violence against Jews was understandable. And this is what we're dealing with. We are dealing with the amount of anti-Semitism, amount of hatred against Jews and the Israeli state that you cannot deal with by simply trying to be nicer, by simply trying to say, no, 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 we are delivering humanitarian aid to Gaza, which is what we'll be talking about on the reality show in just 10 minutes or so. Um, you cannot do it but basically saying no, we are actually the good guys. This is not a failure of Hasbra, or however you pronounce it. This is not a failure of Israel not being able to explain why it's doing a good thing. It's the failure of the moral system. It's the fact that Israel has accepted the idea that to be moral, you have to care for your enemies. That to be moral, you have to feed your enemies and you have to make sure your enemies survive another day. The only way to fight this, the only way Israel can win, is to understand that Palestinian people are the enemy, that Palestinian people are the ones who are making sure this violence continues because they want and support the violence. They've supported October 7th. They still support October 7th. This is what they want. Um, I'm trying to just see. We also have a super chat from Alejandro. Thank you so much. Let's we can cover. We still have a little bit of time, so we can cover some of the reactions. So of course, it got a very negative reaction from both Israel and America. The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has called this a reckless decision that only serves Hamas propaganda. Which is absolutely right. It is a slap in the face to the victims of October 7. U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, has mocked the statement of Emmanuel Macron, saying, "How clever! If Macron can just declare the existence of state, perhaps the UK can declare France a British colony." So, yeah, poking fun. But the fact is that this is not funny. The fact that this is a reward for terrorism, this is a reward for the violence the Palestinians want. And of course, you had all the terrorists cheer. So you had Mahmoud Abbas or his deputy saying this reflects France's commitment to international law and its support for the Palestinian people's right to self-determination and the establishment of our independent state. Again, this is a deputy of somebody who didn't have elections, who is, or rather, who is in like the 20th year of his 4 or 5 year term presidency. So yeah, talking about again, talking about there is already a problem with the idea of self-determination, but somebody who doesn't have elections even shouldn't be talking about. But this is playing exactly into terrorist hand. This is exactly what Macron knows he's doing, and this is why Palestinians are able to get away with it. Hamas has also called this a positive step in the right direction toward doing justice to our oppressed Palestinian people and supporting their legitimate right to self-determination. Again, this is Hamas, an organization that is killing their own people who stand up to Hamas's rule, who stand up to Hamas's terrorism and terrorizing of its own people. So continue going forward, Emmanuel Macron. Continue encouraging this. Continue encouraging this violence Palestinians are committing. I'm sure one day there will be. One day somehow this will turn into a positive action. I think not. This is simply going to continue violence against Jews and continue violence against Western powers. Again, as much as Emmanuel Macron is trying to appease dictatorships and Islamists, they will come for you after because they hate you, because you are still Western. You are still, or you represent the West. This is not going to stop just because they got rid of the Jews. And now, since you allowed it to happen, now we're going to like you or something. They will come after you first, as that poem goes, they first came after the Jews, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a Jew. And when they came for me, there was nobody to speak for me. But I'm sure the irony will hit Macron. I'm sure something will hit Macron much harder than the irony of the poem. I don't mean it as calling for violence against the French president. I'm just saying this is the future he encourages by appeasing violence, by appeasing dictatorships, and um, and this kind of rhetoric. With that, we are about to run out of time, so let me remind people about the Irreplaceable Spark Conference. So this topic wasn't as positive, but something that is positive is our upcoming conference on October 25th, 26th in Southern California, Orange County, California. Specifically, it's going to be a conference covering a lot of successful people who used the philosophy of Ayn Rand, objectivism, to succeed in their life, in their respective fields. So you can come join the Irreplaceable Spark Conference to listen how they succeeded, and you also be able to get one-on-one coaching sessions with some of them. So you can check out the specifically. Enric is asking any news on discount halter rate. I don't think so yet, but actually, since you said that, there is also a good reminder for people to join the ARCUK's mailing list that is not allowing. Okay, it's posted now. Join ARCUK's mailing list. Anything about the conference, anything else we do is published there. So if you join the ARCUK's mailing list, you'll know about anything like that happening. Like, for example, Enric says, discount halter rate. So we'll try to get that as soon out as possible. And you can check out the conference, objectivism.co.uk. We also have the reality show coming up in just about a few minutes or so, where we will be talking about the humanitarian aid and specifically the West's obsession with humanitarian aid and how this makes sure Hamas will continue existing and violent Palestinians will continue existing. So check out the reality show, link in the chat in just a few minutes or so. We'll see you in a bit. Bye bye.